district, and I actually am so blessed at Rossi Elementary School. So congratulations, Mrs. Igora.
Thank you very much for this honor. I would really like to thank my students who were in my class last year, who were such an integral part of this achievement. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is everybody here from my birthday? Huh? My birthday's the 14th. Everybody came early? Yeah. We have no minutes? Approval of minutes? Nothing?
We don't have the 21st done.
Dr. Ridge, any more special presentations this evening?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you, and again, congratulations. We have no minutes this evening. Committee reports. Do we have any committee reports at this time? I do have one committee report. Policy and Personnel Committee met on August 27, 2019. Mr. Ulrich, our chair, was unable to attend, so I sat in his place and ran the meeting. Present were Mr. Frangipani, Dr. Rossi, Mr. Fry, Dr. Gruccio, Mr. Medio, myself, Ms. Spinelli, and Mr. Holmes. Discussion that took place at our meeting, we had a VASA contract discussion, personnel recommendations for September 4th BOE meeting. Dr. Gruccio and myself had to leave the room because there was discussion concerning the assistant principal hiring recommendations, and that's all that we discussed that evening. Do we have any other committee reports? Okay, seeing none. All righty. Comments by our board solicitor, Mr. DeSanto.
Yes, Mr. English. The matter I'm going to speak about is of great importance to the board and to all involved, and it may take a few minutes, so I ask everyone's indulgence. In early August, Dr. Rossi informed me that Dr. Gruccio's daughter, Lauren Marie Coya, had applied for a vice principal position in the district. He requested my legal opinion as to whether or not Mrs. Coya was permitted to apply for the position under applicable law. Under the New Jersey Administrative Code, as a condition of receiving state aid, a district board of education is required to implement a nepotism policy. The code requires that this mandated nepotism policy include the following: a provision prohibiting any relative of a district board of education member or chief school administrator from being employed in an office or position in the school district, except that a person employed by the school district on the effective date of the policy or on the date that the relative becomes a district board of education member or chief school administrator shall not be prohibited from continuing to be employed or to be promoted in the school district. In other words, as long as the employee was an existing employee at the time the policy was adopted or at the time that the person became superintendent, that person is permitted to apply for the position. Mrs. Coya's employment predated both the date of our nepotism policy and the date that Dr. Gruccio became superintendent. Consequently, Mrs. Coya is eligible under the administrative code adopted by the Commissioner of Education that I quoted above to apply for the position of vice principal in the district. It is clear, it's a code mandate. Although another section of the code permits the chief school administrator to recommend a relative who is grandfathered, as Mrs. Coya is, it was my opinion that the best practice was to have the entire interview and nomination process handled by other central office or building administrators. I advised Dr. Gruccio that the best practice was to remain out of the process. She assured me that that had been her intention all along, and the matter was referred to Mr. Fry. Recently, Dr. Rossi asked me if the same 3 conflicted board members with respect to employment issues involving Dr. Gruccio are likewise conflicted from participating in the application process involving her daughter. According to the decisions of the School Ethics Commission, board members who have spouses employed by their district are conflicted from any employment issues involving their chief school administrator. In other words, the conflicts apply to more than just the superintendent's evaluation. The basis for their decision is a code provision which prohibits school officials from, quote, using or attempting to use his official position to secure unwarranted privileges and advantages for himself or immediate family members. Apparently, the Commission believes that board members who have spouses employed by their district can somehow secure unwarranted privileges or advantages if they participate in employment issues involving the superintendent. In my opinion, the same rationale would probably be applied by the School Ethics Commission to our situation. The Commission probably would conclude that the public could perceive that the 3 so-called conflicted board members could secure privileges or advantages for their spouses by being involved in the application process involving Mrs. Koya. It's a strained interpretation, it really is. Therefore, I suggested to Mr. English, Mr. Ulrich, and Mr. Silva that they continue to recuse themselves and that they have no involvement in the application process involving Mrs. Koya. For that reason, the 3 have not been involved in the process, and Mr. English, at the time that this nomination would be considered, will be stepping aside, and Ms. Acosta will chair that particular portion of the meeting. Finally, I want to point out that there is no school ethics opinion directly on point regarding the conflict of the 3 board members as it relates to the recommendation to promote Dr. Gruccio's daughter. My opinion was based upon my best professional judgment and my familiarity with prior rulings of the SEC. Incidentally, John Burns of the New Jersey School Board's legal department concurred with my opinion. So I sought a second opinion from school boards, and John concurred that the SEC likely would rule that the 3 members continue to be conflicted. The only way to get a conclusive opinion is for the board to authorize a request for a formal advisory opinion from the SEC regarding this specific issue. We know from the recent ruling permitting Ms. Acosta and Mr. Medio to participate in employment issues involving the superintendent that the SEC has modified its prior rulings. So they may very well do it in this situation here. But unless and until we have a formal opinion from them, it's my opinion and Mr. Burns' opinion that the 3 of you should step aside from this particular issue. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions or comments from the board on this? Mr. Santo, I just do have a quick question.
Yeah.
When we did this previously in regards to the 5 conflicted board members getting a ruling on the superintendent, there was a certain timetable. It took 2 to 3 months to get that ruling. So again, a ruling like this,
I would estimate 90 days.
90 days.
Yeah.
In your opinion, if indeed we had to do this today, we're looking at a 90-day process. Is this something as a board we should entertain to put in motion, say tonight, so we have a ruling just in case something like this is to happen in the near future with a different type of hiring that might be related to the superintendent?
Or school board members. This could apply to a relative of any one of you.
Okay.
So yes, it's potential that in the future it could occur, and the ruling, of course, would get you a prior advisory opinion on it.
Okay. So then realistically, as I'm looking at here, proposed items to review for discussion or adoption by board members. number 10, I think maybe we would have a brief discussion on that and see what the
It
majority
could be
feels.
tonight or another meeting, but yes, you could
Because
discuss
it's
it.
fresh in our minds, and the reason things tend to happen and we tend to forget things, I think it's a good time maybe to address it tonight, at least in a setting where we can have minutes on it, and we'll see where it goes. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, at this time, public comment on agenda items. Mr. Merkley, do we have anyone?
Yes, we do have 2 yellow forms. Ms. Suzanne Morello, topic is employment.
Please remember to limit your comments to 5 minutes. Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Morello.
Good evening, everybody, and happy start to the new year. There is a recommendation for employment tonight that brings the subject of conflict of interest front and center. Mr. DeSanto has addressed it. All 9 board members have been unable to evaluate the superintendent for the entirety of her 7+ year tenure for a variety of reasons, according to the Ethics Commission. That being said, this recommendation raises an interesting question. Mr. DeSanto has also semi-addressed that. A person who reports directly to the superintendent and is evaluated by the superintendent makes this recommendation for employment. It would be unfair to the candidate and the district if there has not been a thoroughly vetted system to evaluate the candidate in this newly proposed position. While on paper, the professionalism of staff who will be evaluating this employee is not being called into question, but the fear of reprisal should be addressed prior to any perceived favoritism or retaliation based on a less than stellar evaluation. Anyone beginning a new position should be allowed to have honest feedback on performance. Anyone in a new position is going to wobble or not make the best step, and it's unfair to the candidate not to have a clear-cut system in place that will allow someone who is neutral, who does not go back in any way, shape, or form to the superintendent, do the evaluation. Growth does not come without honest evaluation and feedback. It's unfair to the superintendent, who is the parent in this relationship, as well as district staff, not to have clear and unambiguous guidelines in place. Merely saying educational professionals will be doing the evaluations and reviews is not enough, and I base that on my past 9 years as a board member. Board members also should not be pressured into making decisions that could be less than fair to all involved. The school year has just begun, and a few weeks to get a clear and very precise recommendation or set of guidelines on this, I don't think would be outside the realm of not only possibility, but clear-headed thinking. And I say this with all sincerity. This is for the candidate, the superintendent, and the district. There can't be any murky water, because what's been going on for the past 7 years about the evaluation of the superintendent has hamstrung people and not let everyone do their best. There are 9 elected officials up there, and you all have input, different perspectives, and should be able, as elected officials, to do your job. The new candidate should be able to go into a situation and really get truthful feedback and perform to her best. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morello.
We have another yellow sheet. It's Dan Greco, also on personnel.
Good evening, Mr. Greco.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Lauren Corey and I have had the pleasure of working together for the last 11 years at Durand School. As a teacher, Lauren is every principal's dream. One of those staff members that arrives well before the students and stays as long as it takes to get everything done for the next day. Lauren volunteers for every extracurricular event. In 11 years, she may have missed one or two. She sets and maintains the highest standards. Last year, she was recognized by this board for her student growth percentile, which was one of the highest among all teachers in the state of New Jersey. Lauren can be seen on weekends and evenings at community baseball games, concerts, and art shows. She is the type of staff member that students come back to visit. Lauren sees the bigger picture, bigger than the classroom walls. Lauren has established community partnerships with outside agencies, including developing a fresh fruits and vegetables program for our students at Durand School. As a leader, not only is she on every committee, she is presented to our staff on in-service days and is a resource to our entire staff at Durand. Someone that others, even more experienced teachers, rely on for support and guidance. Most importantly, she is one of the hardest working staff members you will ever meet. She continually asks, what can I do different? How can I make this better? What can I do to help? These are the things that Lauren has done from day one at Durand School. Not because she wanted administration to like her, that's not her style. Not because she had aspirations of one day becoming an administrator, but more importantly, that's who Lauren Coya is. That's who you will get as an assistant principal in this district. So that's the decision you have to make today. Put everything else aside. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Do we have anyone else this evening?
There are no other yellow sheets, but anyone that wants to address the board on any other topic can do so at the end of the agenda.
Thank you. At this time, Dr. Gruccio, motion and resolutions.
I would like to recommend discussion on personnel items 1.1 A through D.
Any questions or comments? Yes.
Okay, a couple questions for Dr. Gruccio. On the assistant principal for Dominic Pilla Middle School, we received an email that there were 19 applicants for the vice principal positions. Looking at the names, I saw probably the majority were in-district seasoned veteran employees. I noticed that there are probably at least 3 or 4 in the audience tonight. Why, on a lower level supervisory position, we don't have a situation where we're promoting from within? When I see a list of people that have come to this board for many years, have supported activities, have mentored children, I'm having a problem just understanding why. So that's my first question.
Mr. Ulrich, I was on medical leave at the beginning of the process, and I remained uninvolved in the situation. So if it's okay, I would like to have Dr. Rossi address that question.
Absolutely.
Just a quick summary. All 18 internal applicants were interviewed. Ms. Frangipani and I, you may recall, had run seminars for aspiring administrators. Many of those individuals attended those seminars and were given interviews for this position. In evaluating everyone, we felt that the most eligible candidate is being recommended for Dominic Pilla School.
All right. The next follow-up would be, and I guess this is for Dr. Gruccio and Dr. Rossi, I guess you can stay, but this was really a decision that was made on with discussions with Dr. Gruccio when these positions were being posted. There was, when Mr. Benitez was made principal of Dominic Pilla, Tammy Monahan was also still on the books, still going to be over there. So the plan, as I recall it, in policy and personnel, was to post later in the fall, October, November, for the vice principal position at Dominic Pilla Middle School and bring in Larry Ritchie, that's how much of a specific recollection I have, to sub during that time with Mr. Bermudez. And then there would be a posting or the ability for people to repost and have other applicants go at that time. So what changed while we're hiring a VP tonight for Dominic Bell Middle School?
Speaking for myself, I don't recall a decision or directive to that effect. I recall conversation. There is nothing inappropriate about what occurred. It is common to post a principal without a location. As we know, this board fully knows transfers occur frequently in the district. One thought that I can give you, Mr. Ulrich, is the external employee may be responsible for a 60-day notice, which will expire about the time Ms. Monahan formally departs the books in November.
All right, fair enough. That's all I have.
Do I have any other questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I would like to recommend approval of personnel items 1.1 A through D.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please. Mr. Merkley.
Ms. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Medio.
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes.
The motion passes.
I would like to welcome Melissa, and if you would like to come up and say a few words, please feel free. We're happy you're joining our family.
Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Melissa Finizio, and I was a past Vineland teacher for in my first 10 years in the district. I am so excited to come back to my roots here in Vineland. I am a resident. I am a class of '99, and I can't wait to start this year and help the students of Vineland. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations.
Congratulations, Melissa. We wish you the very best.
At this time, Mr. DeSanto would like to make a clarification concerning his earlier comment.
Thank you. Although I realize that my remarks were quite lengthy, I believe one point needs to be clarified. As I mentioned earlier, the opinion I gave is based upon my best professional judgment. It's not based upon the identity of the subject of the issue before the board tonight. The commissioner has taken nepotism off the table with respect to this particular issue. The commissioner has basically said in the code that a family member, a relative of the superintendent, cannot be prohibited from being considered for a promotion. So in other words, we may have a different view of what is nepotism. We may have a different perspective, a higher standard, raising the bar on what we think is right or wrong. But right or wrong, the commissioner has made that determination. We have to assume the commissioner knows that the superintendent is the supervisor of all employees, all the way down the line, that there may be appearance of conflict, there may be appearance of nepotism, but the issue is not on the table because you cannot prohibit someone from receiving the promotion. The only way that the person cannot be considered is if there's some other reason, valid business reason, valid educational reason, not nepotism. So I just wanted to make that clear.
And Mr. DeSanto said, realistically, we've discussed this pretty hard, you and I. We can't, and I say can't, disagree with the code.
You have to honor the code. It's part of the oath that this board took.
Agreed.
Every board member under their oath of office agreed to abide by the law and the code of the commissioner.
Thank you. At this time, I have to ask Dr. Gruccio to recuse herself from this next recommendation. I would ask that Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Mr. Fry, head to the podium. I will recuse myself, and at this time, I will have Ms. Acosta take the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English. Mr. Acosta. I would like to recommend for discussion Personnel Item 1.2, approval regarding the appointment of Mrs. Lauren Marie Koya as Assistant Principal at Rossi Elementary School effective September 16, 2019 at an annual base salary of $90,600.
Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding item 1.2? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Costa.
Roll call?
I would like to recommend for approval Personnel Item 1.2.
Just did.
Roll call.
Motion. So moved.
Second. Roll call, Ms. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Medio.
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Koya.
Good evening, and thank you, Board of Education members, Dr. Rossi, Mr. Fry, and of course, Mr. Frangipani, for this amazing opportunity to represent Vineland Public Schools as an assistant principal. As a graduate of Vineland Public Schools, it is truly an honor and a privilege to continue serving the students of Vineland in a new capacity. I would like to thank everyone that took the time to be here tonight to support me. I especially want to thank my coworkers, Mr. Greco and Mrs. Tomlin, and everyone who has supported me thus far in my career. I look forward to working collaboratively with the principal, staff, and students, and the community to ensure a positive and successful school year. Thank you so much.
Thank you and congratulations. I just have a brief comment. This is really goes out to everyone here. This process was not the normal process, as Mr. DeSanto clearly has stated, and it was a stressful process because as board members, you want to make the best decision. As I said when we were hiring Mr. Bermudez a few short weeks back, we want the best people in these seats, and unfortunately, when you have a situation like this, where you need legal opinions and who's conflicted, who's not conflicted, it puts a lot of stress not only on my fellow board members, but central administration, the interview teams, and the people in the public. I noticed a lot of people came out this evening. I thought it was because this is my birthday month, but after that applause, I realized that it's not for that. But my birthday is September 14th, in case you care. But that being said, I want everyone to know that you're going to leave the room and you're going to assume what you want to assume. But I can tell you that, again, I pride myself on the transparency of running a district the way I think you should be running a business. And we as board members have to trust the people that are making these decisions. I can guarantee that we question them often, and at times we might cross the line with that questioning, but that it is never done in a cruel or malicious way or some form that is meant to discredit a possible candidate, be it, as I don't disagree with what Mr. Ulrich said earlier, if it's the in-district candidate or the out-of-district candidate. One thing I decided when I came back on the board is I wanted to come back and make a difference. And it all starts with the hiring process and the way things go moving forward. We did learn a few things through this interview process that at our next policy personnel meeting we will be addressing. I spoke with Ms. Spinelli today briefly, and you know, we want ways to, there should be ways and mechanisms in place to really inform the board members of these decisions in a better manner than maybe the night of, 4 days of, 5 days of. And I know that I had given the minutes tonight on our committee report where there was thorough discussion on this, but as Mr. DeSanto has taught us, our minutes sometimes tend to be very vague, and I know the reason why, but at the same time, it's very hard for some board members that really weren't in policy personnel to really get the answers to their questions the night of the meeting. Even though it was on our agenda when it came out Friday, what makes it tough is even up to today, there were some changes on that. I kind of don't want to beat the horse with the combined meeting, non-combined meeting, but I really want this board to consider there's probably 6 to 7 months worth of meetings that don't need a dual work session and regular meeting the following week. But something like this, where you would have had thorough discussion on that, had the week to digest it, and then come back and vote on it, might have answered some of the questions that a couple board members had hit me with today, which were hard for me to answer because I wasn't part of the process. So I apologize to the board members that felt they were out of the loop, but with the sensitivity of this now, as Mr. DeSanto said, it just was not the most unique situation. Without beating a dead horse, I just wanted the public to know, because I live in Vineland, we all live in Vineland. We know who's going to say and who's going to think what, but I also trust that each one of us, we're adults, and if indeed this was the recommendation that this was the best candidate, I say so be it, as I did with Mr. Bermudez, as we did tonight, and as we've done in the past. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that while it's fresh in everyone's mind. Thank you. Dr. Gruccio.
I would like to recommend...
Excuse me, Mayor. I'm sorry. Mr. English, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
In your packet that you just approved, there's a transfer, and I want to recognize the incredible professionalism and capability of Mrs. Christina Craig. She is shifting to the high school on very short notice, and she is one of your top administrators.
Absolutely, and I thank her as well on behalf of myself and the board.
I'd like to recommend discussion of approval of field trips, item 2.1.
Any questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend approval of 2.1, approval of trips.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi. Yes. Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Medio.
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes.
The motion passes.
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the placement of special education students.
Questions or comments? Mr. Medio.
What's the total cost of this?
I would get back to you on that. I don't see that the total cost is down here. Some of the totals are state deducted, or deducted off of our state aid. So I will have that breakdown to Dr. Gruccio tomorrow morning.
I'd like to recommend approval of 4.1, placement of special education students. One at a time, then I'll group them. Oh, that's right, that's me. Okay. All right. I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the submission of fiscal year 20 Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Improvement Act grant application from July 1, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, with federal funds in the amount of $100,591.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion to accept funding from the New Jersey Youth Corps Department of Labor and Workforce Development through the Vineland Public Schools in the amount of $360,000.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding a professional services agreement with Brett DeNovi and Associates to provide a board-certified behavior analyst and behavior support services to classified district students through the IDEA funds.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the list of agencies, consultants, and clinicians on file with the board secretary for use by the child study team as part of the evaluation process when specialized testing is required. The amount of each independent evaluation requested by a parent or guardian is aligned with NJAC 6A:14C 1.1 through 7 and not to exceed $3,000 per evaluation as per the Vineland Board of Education Policy 2468.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend discussion regarding the Cumberland County Regional Cooperative Transportation Initiatives, Transportation Jointure, Transportation Quoted Contracts, and Transportation Addenda.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to recommend approval of finance items 4.1 through 4.6.
I apologize, Dr. Gruccio. Just go back to Mr. Medio's question. Mr. Medio, do you want to have that figure before we vote on that this evening?
Oh, you did, Mr. Mayor.
No, I have it, 3.8 million.
You have it. Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta.
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. Medio.
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana.
Yes.
Mr. Silva.
Yes.
Ms. Spinelli.
Yes.
Mr. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. English.
Yes.
Those motions pass.
That is it this evening, correct, Dr. Gruccio?
Yes, unless you would like to put a motion forward regarding what you discussed with Mr. DeSantis.
I just want to have, at this time, under number 10, I just have like a brief discussion with the board. We could wait until it happens again. My problem with if we wait until it happens again, it might be that same time frame, and then we're looking at 90 days out and a position possibly not being filled by a qualified candidate, et cetera. So I don't see an issue with getting an opinion at this point, but I'm only one board member, and it would require 5, so.
Do we know what the cost would be?
Mr. DeSanto?
Well, at $125 an hour, I can't imagine that it would cost more than $750 to $1,000.
Mr. English, I just want to make sure that I understand. You're seeking an advisory opinion from the commissioner regarding
The
the procedures for
conflicted,
members.
correct.
May I explain?
Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, the 3 people that were conflicted on the superintendent employment issues may very well have been conflicted on a value or on voting with respect to the superintendent's daughter. Mr. Burns and I both agree that if that opinion were requested, that that's what the SEC would rule. But you never know with them. So what I was suggesting is to get a formal opinion from them, that'll close the issue. While we're at it, we may as well ask, would there be any conflicts involving relatives of board members, so that hopefully we can anticipate a problem down the road. You know, we give our best professional judgment, but the ultimate authority is the SEC, and that's where you have certainty rather than predictability.
Would it be on our current board or ongoing? Because board members come and go.
Yeah, it would be ongoing for those that are similarly situated, because that's how we rely upon the prior opinions, but it would be specific as to current board. But see, right now, we don't have anybody being considered. If we had the issue involving Dr. Gruccio's daughter, we would have the three of them. Right now, we're going to ask for a global advisory opinion, something that would be general in nature so that we would know. So basically, we would ask a question, for example, any board member here, if they had a relative that was being considered, you know, what would be the ruling of the SEC with respect to considering that person? So,
Comment?
it's being proactive rather than reactive. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Aldrich.
I think that for $750 to $1,000 that, I didn't get the logic of not voting on Mrs. Koya. I think anybody that follows my path on this board for 10 years will know that 99.9% of the time I accept the superintendent's recommendation because it comes from the administrative staff that we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to make those informative decisions. So I didn't see what unfair advantage that Mr. English's wife would be the head aide of Vineland High School or whatever. I didn't see how my wife was going to be the head of anything. So I didn't see the advantage that could be given. So I disagree that I think I should have had the right to vote for people coming forward that are here. So I think we should do it.
Mr. Medio.
First of all, Mr. Ulrich, what you just said is correct, but you didn't go far enough. The problem and the reason that you're conflicted is because if you voted no, the superintendent would have a chance to take it out on your wife. That's what the Ethics Commission is afraid of. Now,
That's what they make lawyers for?
well, that's true, but we already got a bad finding from them, and now are you going to open yourself up for another bad one? Because the superintendent's family can apply for promotion, is that correct? So what are we going to do? We're going to ask the Ethics Commission, and they're going to say that board members, family members can't apply or can't get promoted?
No.
What's that going to do for us, for anybody?
Well,
That's not what we're asking.
that's not what we're asking, because under a current promotion, they'd have to predate your service back. I don't think many of us have that. So that would actually involve a conflict where a board member would have to step off the board, if I understand the ethics rulings correctly, unless you've been on the board for 30 years, 25 years. So I'm asking that I shouldn't be conflicted, and if an improper action was taken against one of our spouses, in my case, we all have spouses, you know, my next advice to our spouses would be, that's what they make attorneys for, and if someone's going to take that action, it's very petty of them, and I think that I should be able to vote. And in this case, I would have voted yes, but that's not the point.
Mr. English, point of order. May I suggest to the board that before you consider the matter formally, that I provide you with the actual request that would be submitted, and then you can determine whether or not that's what you really want to ask.
I'm fine with that.
You know, and that could be done for the October meeting.
I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. My point is, as we called it the other day, I called it the duct tape rule. We were not, it's not just the vote, it was the entire process. Mr. Silva might have had some great questions. I might have had some great questions, as Mr. Ulrich would have, that we could have shared amongst the committee process that we run by, that didn't happen because of this ruling. And that's why, whether Whether I wait a month or right now, my point's not going to change, but it's not going to, whether we do it today or in October, I honestly, at that point, if you want to provide us with that, I'm fine with that, but I know how I would be voting, and I would imagine, I don't speak for my fellow board members, but they weren't happy.
I just think it provides more.
No worries, I am okay with that, but I just want, for the record, we will revisit this under number 10 next month. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions on that or comments? Okay, we do not have any bills, no emergent items. At this time, opportunity for the public to address the board. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Yes. Please state your name when you come to the podium, please.
Good evening. My name is Cansu Ardahan.
And my name is Gülsen Aklı Kaplan.
We live in Vineland, New Jersey, and our house is in the Garrison Estates, close to the hospital. Our concern is the time our children are going to be on the bus. They are 3 and 4 years old. My daughter's school is only 2.2 miles away, about 5 minutes. But her pickup time is 8:19 and drop-off is around 9:25. That's almost 1 hour for a 4-year-old. We already had that issue last year, but they couldn't help me at the transportation office. And I think almost everybody in this room has children or grandchildren, and they are the vulnerable population that we have to protect, and that's why I'm here. So we think that almost an hour is too long for 3 to 4-year-olds to be on the bus. What they say us in the transportation office is that the funds are being cut and that there are no enough buses or bus drivers. That's why we came here to talk to you and hope that there would be some changes implemented. Because my concern, there are many red flags when a child is that long on the bus. Last year, she vomited when she came home and complained every day of dizziness, and she started hating going to school. And I have a 1-year-old. Every morning is a stress, and I don't want her to hate the bus, hate school, and it's becoming a medical issue when she's vomiting and complains of dizziness. And
I just want to point out that our kids are going to be on the same bus, but they're going to a different school. Hers is going to go on to Tiny Tots, and my kid's going to go to Courtyard Preschool. Because there's only less than a mile in between school, but still they're going to have to take the same bus. It's still almost an hour drive. My son is only 3. By the time he gets to school, he's going to be so tired. He's not going to be cooperate with the teacher at all. It's like a transportation issue.
I want you to understand our board policy. We cannot exchange in dialogue with you, but Superintendent Dr. Gruccio's secretary, Mrs. Salerno, is sitting in the front row, and she will give you a contact number, and you can talk directly to Dr. Gruccio tomorrow if you would like to handle it that way, because I know you're coming here for an answer, but we do not participate in dialogue back and forth.
We really appreciate that.
No problem.
I did spoke to somebody in transportation.
Michael Hall.
And I was told that some parents do drive their kids to school because of this issue. I would love to drive my kid to school. I'm 4 months pregnant. I'm going to have an infant in a couple months. And it's like taking an infant every morning from the house. And I also have a 6-year-old who's going to start first grade. And just because of the kids, I'm going to have a babysitter like for a couple hours just to take my little one to school every morning so he can get at least 20 minutes drive, 5-minute drive to school instead of an hour drive. Thank you for your help.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Do we have anyone else this evening? Seeing none, do we have any old business or new business by any board members? I just have some old business for you guys. It's real quick. I know we had discussion concerning round 2 of our retreat, and the goal was to try and have a summer retreat for our goal setting. We're about 2.5 months behind on the goal setting according to how we do it with Dr. Gruccio's contract when it comes to setting the goals. So I'm going to be sending out an email concerning September, having our retreat, round 2. It's called board setting goals. I did receive a very detailed email from Mr. Silva, which I thank you. That was the best goal setting form I ever received, as well as from Mr. Holmes as well. So the goal here, I'm going to send that email out again, but I would like, so we don't trip over ourselves, if you can give me a list of your top 5 goals, we can kind of categorize that, and it will make the process a little more streamlined, so we're not there for 2.5, 3 hours. Also, we have not had our ethics annual, what do I call it, Bob, lesson? Briefing, presentation. And if I'm correct, does that need to be during a board meeting, or does it have to be the kind of meeting where it's a work session regular meeting, or can we do it at our retreat?
It could be done at any public meeting of the board.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be done at the retreat.
Is that something you can do, or do we need school boards to do that?
I would prefer school boards.
You would prefer school boards?
I've done it in the past, but I suggest that school boards do it.
And just, once again, we can do it with the retreat? Perfect.
Because with the retreat, you give public notice.
It has to appear in the minutes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it'll be in the minutes, yeah.
Yes. And it is required, board members, as you know, to do it once a year.
Yeah, I think we've done it.
Yes.
During retreats.
We did it during retreats, too. We had it at the same time.
You did,
Yeah.
at the
Yes.
retreat, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
We already had that.
Yeah, we had it with
We had that.
Mary.
I remember saying more than once, I don't want to listen to this, I want to talk about board business, and you still heard it.
I didn't have it with this group. Everyone that I talked to when I originally sent the first agenda said, I don't want any of that ethics crap on there. It's kind of how it was. So I can guarantee you it was not on there.
Each board constitutes for 1 year beginning January 1.
We only
and
have one
rework.
retreat.
Yeah.
Scott.
There's 3 of us remember it that way.
We went over all the ethics stuff.
We didn't go over it.
She gave us all that before.
Well, you have minutes, so
Yeah.
you can check it.
You actually have to sign an ethics document, and each board has to do it annually.
Yeah, and it's, when you say annually, it's beginning with
Sign.
your reorg, so it's January to December is the year you have to do it.
That's one thing I would remember, because it takes about an hour. And I didn't sign anything. Did you guys sign anything?
I thought I signed stuff.
You signed something, everyone signed, I signed something when I was sworn in, but
That's it.
Huh?
That's the ethics.
that was just the ethics when I was sworn in. But
Where did she go?
that's it. Okay. Any other questions on that? So it's going to be a busy September, I can tell you that. At this time, board member remarks. Mr. Fiocchi.
New business.
Oh, new business. Mr. Ulrich.
Tonight, I set a meeting for our first school safety security meeting, and that's going to be on September 17th at 5 p.m. And Mr. Merkley is going to send out an invite for everybody on the committee. So that'll start rolling. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Ulrich, just for my knowledge, because I have a lot on my plate here, who is on that committee currently?
It would be myself, you, Mr. Fiocchi, and Mr. Silva.
Perfecto. We all agree?
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, I mean, the district staff.
Do I have any other new business this evening?
It's not really new business, but I just wanted to let my fellow board members know, I think I let Mr. English know, that on September 27th and 28th, I was invited to participate in the National Association for Latino Elected Officials. It's a 2-day intensive seminar in Chicago on board governance. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully I can bring back some great ideas. It's an opportunity to network with board members all over the country. So just wanted to let you know, and hopefully I can bring back some really good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you. Enjoy as well. Any other new or old business this evening? Seeing none, board member remarks. Mr. Fiocchi.
Just like to congratulate our new assistant principals, Mrs. Koya and Mrs. Venizio. Best of luck to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiocchi. Mr. Holmes.
I echo the sentiments of Mr. Fiocchi. Congratulations to our new assistant principals, and good luck to all of our students starting school tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Ms. Acosta.
Again, congratulations to our new vice principals. I'm really looking forward to seeing you at your respective schools. I know you're going to do a fantastic job. I wish all the teachers, administrators the very best tomorrow as we begin school. Best of luck to all the students, and let's have a really good school year. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Acosta. Ms. Spinelli.
First, I would like to give a shout out to the Transportation Department because I know they have been bombarded with all the calls and people coming into the office, as well as myself with all my issues and concerns for our student safety. So I just want to say you guys are doing an awesome job, and I really do appreciate it. And I also want to welcome our new administrators on board, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spinelli. Mr. Medio.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Sobrana.
Congratulations, Ms. Koya, Ms. Mendez, and in absentia, Christina Craig. I know you'll do a fine job and hit the ground running. I hope that we have a safe and smooth opening to school tomorrow. I know I came to the office today and the place was crazy, as usual it is in the last week. I know everyone's been working really hard to get ready to start with the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sobrana. Mr. Silva.
I'd like to congratulate our two new VPs, wish you guys well in your respective schools, and also wish the students a very productive and successful new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Mr. Ulrich.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate our new VPs, and you know, in no way was I suggesting that anyone wasn't qualified. I just see the faces of disappointment in our staff members, and as a leader, you know, throughout my career, I've had to make those decisions. So I would just, the message that I would send is, you know, keep on applying, keep on trying. You know, it's, we should try when we can to nurture and mentor our own staff to take over, because they're the ones really that best know our student body that currently has, and regardless of whether you've taught in the district or you're coming back in, those current relationships are there for our current staff members. So I didn't want that to seem, I was never going to vote no for you. So, but I felt that the questions need to be asked so that the public understands the process that occurs, and that we as board members affirm that process. So, you know, I thank the administrative staff. The questions were answered in a professional manner, and that's all I can expect of our staff. All right, on to that. You know, one of the things that's on my mind, and I know Mr. Sobrana's mind and many of our other board members, is our safety and security of our schools. And I'm really looking forward, and I know, you know, the district is too, to really throwing everything on the table, taking a look at that. You know, I certainly have a lot of things in my mind floating. I was able to go out to California for a week and did some really good threat assessment training, and it's all stuff that really applies here. Some of the stuff we're actually doing, but it doesn't hurt to have an internal examination of feedback processes. I don't always agree with what Ms. Morello presents to the board, as I have in the past, but one thing she did say that rings true is that through growth comes honest evaluation. So we need to look at all of our programs that we have and ensure that we have honest feedback, that we look at every possible situation, because we are facing a really large budget deficit coming up, and people that are applauding today could be not applauding come the next budget cycle. So those tough decisions are going to be made by our staff, and then the board's going to have to affirm them. But it's coming, so we should all be aware of that. And I'm surprised that Mr. Medio did not make a comment, about some kind of like almost record-setting achievement by one of our Vineland High School football stars. Isaiah Pacheco had a record day, in a sense that at Rutgers University, no one's rushed for 4 touchdowns since Ray Rice did, who obviously had a long career in the NFL. So congrats to those young men that are proceeding at multiple college levels and in the NFL, and I wish them the best of luck as they continue to build on their success that started here within the Vineland Public School system. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Ulrich. Dr. Gruccio.
Thank you. First, I'd like to echo what Mrs. Spinelli said. Our transportation and registration departments have been working tirelessly downstairs to try to assist our parents. I also want to thank Rossini because she's gone down there and tried to help them and get bus passes for our parents. It's just a very hectic time of year, and a lot of times people wait to the last minute. So we're all trying to pitch in and make it as smooth as possible, but they have been working to 8, 9 o'clock at night, so I need to thank them publicly. Secondly, I want to wish everyone a very productive and successful school year. It's hard to believe that another year is already here, but I hope it's a positive and successful year for everyone. I encourage as many of you as possible to support our Vineland High School football team. They will be playing Williamstown, who is a #1 team from what I understand, on Friday at 7. So if you have nothing else to do, it would be great to support them. Yes, it is in Williamstown. Also, I'd like to wish Scott a happy birthday. All these people came out for you.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Thank you.
And I really need to thank Christina Craig also. She's very gracious, and she's a wonderful administrator, and for being flexible at the last minute. I can't thank her enough for that. I need to also thank everybody for the many kind gestures that have been sent to me on my medical leave. God is truly good, and I'm very blessed. There are a lot of people worse off than I am, so thank all of you who took the time to call me, send a card, whatever it might have been. It truly meant a lot to me. And finally, I want to welcome Melissa back to Vineland. I wish you nothing but the best. You can always call, you can always stop in. My door is always open. I know Mr. Bermudez is excited to have you on board, and I wish you nothing but the best. And regarding my daughter, it's very difficult sometimes when your child follows in your footsteps. And as a parent, you try to raise your children to work hard, to be good, to have good ethics, be kind people. And then when they do that, it becomes very difficult for them because of who I am. And my end of my career is coming up, but this is the beginning for her. And so I thank all of you who are kind enough to support her. I thank the board for believing in her. And I want you to know, Laura Marie, that I'm proud of you, and I wish you nothing but the best. And I know no matter where they put you, whether it's preschool or high school, you will do a phenomenal job. I know you well enough to know how hard you'll work. I'm blessed that Dan was there to groom you and help you grow as a teacher, and Brittany as well. And I just want you to know that I love you and I'm proud of you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Gruccio.
Mr. President,
Yes.
just wanted to follow up with what Mr. Ulrich was talking about. I know you and I are going to be attending a school safety seminar in October to become a little more well-versed on this subject.
Yes.
Because it's an unfortunate situation in this society right now where you can't go to a movie theater or to the mall or even walk down any street at night and enjoy an evening out without worrying about automatic weapons fire. And I want our schools to be one place where there's no chance the kids and staff aren't going to be safe, whatever it takes.
What we're trying to achieve there, John, is we want to be proactive and not reactive, because you don't want to be the statistic. And I believe we have the board in place to make that happen. Pretty much each one of my board members hit a different angle, and I echo all their sentiments. I do welcome our two new assistant principals to the Vineland Public School District and to their new position. Lauren, you've been here, so you know what you're in for, and welcome back there. You'll do fine. It's a big district, but you know what you signed up for, so good days and bad. The transportation, I've heard some complaints there, and we get complaints every year around this time, and unfortunately we can't make everyone happy, but I can tell you the department is doing their best to accommodate as many things as possible. But as we all know as board members, we had a $14 million shortfall, and we actually reinvested in our transportation department. So we are going through some growing pains there, but it will continue to get better. I apologize if that phone call might not have been answered in a timely fashion, but you have to understand the reason you're calling. Somebody is already on that line doing that same type of complaint, and the bottom line is that person on the line wants to get the answer they want to hear, and unfortunately it's hard to make everyone happy, but we are trying to accommodate as many people as possible with some of the new rules we have and the new style of transportation we are putting forward this year and years to come. I wish the best of luck to our students, our staff members, central administration. It's another year. It really comes fast when you think about it. Summer, when I was a kid, boy, it went for 5 months. Now it's like 5 minutes, and it's like you never really get a break. But you guys are the lifeline for our students and the future. So I take pride in the elementary level here, because that is the foundation. And many of those teachers, I know the hours you put in there, and far before you are the teacher in the classroom, you're that parent for that student. Them students are preschool, during school, and after school. They spend sometimes 10, 12 hours in their actual school than they do at home. So it's such a great job that each one of you do. And then it carries over. Once that foundation, if they get it at that elementary level, they become great at that middle school, and then on to something successful at the high school level. I do see it does. As I look around the room today, I saw a lot of faces from years past. I see Ms. Smith. We go way back. It's great to see you. I see Kim Cottaspati, ex-board member. I see Ms. Panzino. It's unique when this many people come out to the board meetings, and it's usually it's for a certain situation. I wish I would see more of this each month, because it lets us know that people are involved in the process of, we all had our kids go through the system, but that doesn't mean it's over. We really need to start thinking about investing in this future a little bit more than we have in the past. Mr. Ulrich has touched, I believe, on this $8 million deficit we're going to be staring at, and a couple months ago I said October's a couple months away, but it's really here, and we're going to be hitting it hard. And Mr. Merkley, he's committed to that, and he told us from the beginning we might not like what it rolls out to be, but he's here to change the culture of the way we spend the money here in the Vineland Public School District. So we might not agree with everything. The process is going to be very transparent this year, so I don't think like in years past where you're wondering. No, pretty much you're going to find out. But again, you have to support the decision whether you like it or not. I see Mr. Russo's out here, and when Dr. Gruccio, Coach Russo, you should be home studying film, but this was an important situation for you. You're paid the #1 team in South Jersey, and you took the time to come out here. And I remember when you were probably in that same seat wondering if you were going to be board approved. And I remember Mr. Medio taking a chance, and he's telling me, this is the one, this is the one. And I was probably the toughest sale, and it was never personal. It was always because I know the numbers game here, who gets fired, who gets hired. And we as a board, some of us were here, some of us weren't. I look at Cedric, I think you were still in school, buddy. But realistically, we took the chance on you, and now it was a pleasure to spend the Friday and Saturday. Actually, YouTubing to see where our athletes were. We had one athlete playing against Temple. We had Isaiah Pacheco running like crazy for touchdowns. I'm going to forget some of them. I always hate mention names, but there was there was a slew of kids that it was a dream 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's a reality today. And it's a credit to the work ethic, and it's really something that I try and pride myself. The last thing I would say is it's a 24/7 mentality, whether you're a business owner, an administrator, a school teacher, a parent. If you want to be the best, you got to put the time in. And everyone's turn, I always say, will come, but unfortunately sometimes it doesn't. But don't be discouraged. Always continue to be the best that you can be. As Dr. Gruccio said with Christina Craig, the total team player. She found out today that she is going to be transferred. But as we say, she took one for the team because she's the consummate professional. And it's pretty much all I have this evening. As always, it's good to see this many people come out to a Vineland Board of Education meeting, because again, it's time to really start investing into our future. So with that being said, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good evening.